Hello, everyone. Joining me today is a very special guest, Ritu Vasan. Ritu is the founder and CEO at Edu Crossroads Consulting. But before starting her company in 2019, she had an extensive experience of over 20 years in the corporate sector, as well as in a learning and teaching environment in ICSE and CBSE schools. All these years of experience, she had valuable exposure to quality management systems, ISO certifications, and Thomas profiling and personality analysis. She's also been involved in communication and soft skills training and leadership development workshops. Her corporate experience as an HR and hiring consultant has given her knowledge of and insights into various functional domains across different sectors, which enables her to guide and mentor students effectively as per the industry requirements. Ritu, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you, Devesh. Thank you, everyone who's listening to us, and thank you, Devesh, for having me over. It's an absolute pleasure from my side as well.
Superb. So let's straight away jump into the questions. And my first question to you is, what are the biggest reasons why Indian students get their US visa rejected, and how can they avoid that?
It's a very valid question, Devesh. In fact, in these times where immigration and visa rejections are on rampant, but yes, there are reasons, and there are some more prominent reasons than the others that we can discuss now, and also I'll explain how we can avoid those reasons. Right. So let's understand. The first reason that I come across mostly is when there is anomaly in the DS 160 form. Most of the times, parents have filled their DS 160 forms earlier and they mentioned that they were relatives. And then the students, when they fill their form, they say that there are no relatives. There is a mismatch of communication that's on the DS 160 form. Mismatch of what has been written on the DS 160 form, mismatch of how it was addressed in the visa interview questions. Sometimes the parents have filled DS 160 form and kids don't know what they have filled. So it is very important for the students to go through their DS 160 form themselves to understand what answers have been filled to particular questions, because there cannot be any wrong or misrepresentation of facts, and also whatever has been written should be truly represented during your visa interview. So that is very, very important. So anomalies in the, and sometimes, yes, sometimes careless errors also happen, like passport number or a service ID number are not copied properly or not written properly. So these careless errors plus the misinformation on DS 160 form or mismatch of the information that has been displayed on DS 160 form and during the visa interview, if some questions are asked and there is a mismatch, those things have to be avoided. And the only way to avoid this is to be very sure that whatever information has been on DS 160 is true, completely true. Whether your parents are filling that form or you're filling that form, or whether parents have filled their DS 160 forms for their visitor visas earlier, that also needs to be in consideration. So that's very important. The other reason that I see a lot of students are facing today is because they are not able to provide justification for the program choice and the university choice. Now, very clearly, during the interview, they're not able to justify why did they choose this particular program? How does it align with their career goals? And if they've chosen a particular program, does that program match their earlier education, particularly for the graduate students, right? So there has to be a connection with what you have studied earlier to what you are going to study in the US. Your program choice justification has to be very solid. Besides that, your university choice. Why did you choose your university? That's extremely important. Sometimes a low ranked university that you choose, or unaccredited institution, not very prestigious. I'm not saying that all the universities are prestigious, but yes, you should avoid tier B, tier C schools, because then how do you justify that you could have studied in India, but you're going to still study in a tier B or a tier C school in the US? How would you justify that to the visa officer? Unless and until there is a very strong reason that, yes, I am going to this tier B school because there is a specific program that suits my needs. The reason cannot be, oh, I'm going to this university because it's in that place where my family stays or where my relatives stay. So that those things have to be avoided. So basically, it needs to be very, very clear in terms of why this university, why are we choosing that, and why this particular program. The third reason, which is also very important, is lack of strong ties to India. Now, lack of strong ties to India means not only your family background or what your parents have been doing. So that is one part of having strong ties to India. But otherwise, also, what are your career pathways or career progression within India after you come back to your country after you studied in the US? So if you're not able to give that answer adequately, that what are your career plans in India, ensuring and demonstrating that there are stronger ties to India, then it's a cause for concern for the video officer. For the visa officer, and it's a red flag. Other than that, of course, if officials are not convinced about the financial adequacy in your records. So I'm not even talking about the fake documents. Of course, fake documents nobody will carry. But at the same point of time, if official is not convinced about your financial adequacy, though I-20 says that you will be able to, your parents will be able to sponsor funds, or you have a loan that will be able to kind of take care of your financial needs. But if the visa officer is not convinced, say, for example, you're not able to provide them with the answer about what your parents do, and if that answer is not convincing enough, then maybe there is a red flag. So and that's why it's very important to also carry the financial documents with you. In case of, if the visa officer demands to check those documents, you should have them, including the ITRs of the parents, if the parents are the sponsors.
Okay.
Because then those documents needs to be carried.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I've also seen sometimes nervousness during the visa interview.
Yeah.
You're not able to give your answers in a very right tone. You're nervous. You lack confidence. There are maybe poor communication skills. Maybe you've not prepared your answers well. They look like robotic, scripted answers, but what they genuinely want to know is, do you know about, is there a clarity? Do you know about the real purpose of you coming to the US? And is there a clarity towards your goals? So that needs to be, that needs to come across while we are at the interview. Avoid over explaining, going round and round about the questions that are being asked. Avoid over explaining. Rather be very precise, crisp, and to the point when you're answering the questions. That's very, very important. Other two important reasons that have come into the notice is previous US visa denials or a poor immigration history. Because US officials will be able to see your record, even the travel to other destinations, whether you were refused visa in UK, Canada, or anywhere else, they will be able to check those records also. So previous US denials or poor immigration history can also be one of the reasons that the visa gets rejected. Overconfidence or arrogance. Sometimes the students have to be told, especially today's generation, where they are very cool about everything. It's very important to tell them that it's a very, very official thing, and we need to be very clear on what are the what is the decorum of that entire thing, right? It is very important to tell them. So overconfidence or arrogance. And lastly, inappropriate social media presence. This time, in fact, last few months, we have seen highest order of scrutiny when it comes to your social media presence. So it's very, very important that your social media is cleansed before you go for your visa interview. They will know your Instagram history and your Snapchat history and your other history. So Twitter history. So make sure that the social media cleansing is already done before you go for the interview. So
Wow.
these are the things that one needs to be careful.
Fantastic, Ritu. I mean, there's so many things, and you touched upon so many points here. That's very
I thought I'm sure I've taken few more minutes than was required, but yes, I thought this is very important area for the kids to know, and that's why I think I stretched a little bit more.
Absolutely. I think these are all very important for anyone who is applying for the US visa, and thanks for touching upon all of them. You briefly spoke about the interview aspect as well and how to uh, conduct yourself during the interview. Let me ask you a little bit more about the interview, and can you walk us through what really happens in that roughly 2 minutes long visa interview at the US Embassy?
Yes. So yes, 2 minutes and your decision is taken, right? And it's actually very scary feeling, to be very honest, right? Kids who are just 18-year-olds, particularly when they're going for the first time and they've never faced such things, and parents can't accompany them, it's a scary feeling for them. Not so for the graduate students, because they have kind of they're grown-ups now, right? But for the high school, immediately out from the high school, and kids are facing this, it's scary for them. But the idea is to just stay confident, stay calm, prepare yourself well, and you will be fine. Now what happens is, during the so there are two kinds of interviews, appointments: OFC, which is basically your biometric appointment and the document appointment, and then there is a consulate appointment. Now at the OFC appointment, you pass through your security, deposit your phones, take the token, wait for your turn, and then your documents are checked in terms of DS-160 confirmation page and the I-20 and the visa appointment confirmation. Once you do that, once you give it to the official, they will put the sticker on the passport, and they will send you for the fingerprinting, and the photo is taken. That's all that happens at the OFC appointment. But at the consulate appointment, where actually the visa officer is going to ask you the questions, again, the same thing, you go pass through the security, deposit phones, wait for your turn, take the token and wait for your turn. The visa officer will demand upon your turn, the visa officer will ask for your passport, your service fee receipt, your appointment confirmation, and the DS-160 confirmation page. And then once everything is in order, he will open your DS-160 application that you have filled on the screen. He will also kind of plug in all the other relevant information about you that's coming on his screen, which you can't see. And then he will start asking questions. And the questions are only, most likely it will be 2 or 3 questions. And the entire interview will not take more than 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, if you're able to convince the visa officer that I am a genuine student, I am going for only and only academic purposes, and I wish to return after my studies and make a career in my home country, then you're good to go. And within those 3 minutes, through those questions that the visa officer is going to ask, you have to convince the official about that. So these are the three basically parameters that the visa officer is looking at. You are a genuine student. You are going for an academic purpose to build your career, to a decent university, for a program that you really are passionate about, and then you are returning to India or returning to your home country after you have completed your studies, because you feel that in India or in your home country, there are a lot of work opportunities for you.
Yeah.
So that's very, very critical.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting it in such clear words, Ritu. I'm coming to my next question, which is about preparing for the whole process. How early should students and families start preparing for the process, and what documents are absolutely essential?
Okay. So valid question. Of course, if the parents have, or if kids are applying to the US universities, they've already made up their mind that, okay, yes, we are going to the US and these are the kind of expenses that will come through, right? So they've already kind of mentally prepared to start the funding process or start collecting the funds or collating the funds, consolidating the funds in their bank accounts, right? Now, that process has already begun long back. I'm sure parents are thinking in that term, on that terms. But yes, officially the entire thing will begin once you have accepted the offer from the university. And once you've accepted the offer from a particular university, then they will ask you to furnish bank documents, your bank balance statements, and a financial support form, affidavit of financial support, to give you the I-20, to issue you an I-20. Once you submit the financial documents, and these financial documents are primarily bank balance certificates or bank statements or the bank loan approval letter or the FDs, nothing else. No mutual funds, no shares and stocks certificates, no PFs, no PPFs, just bank statements and the bank balance, including FDs, is what they're looking for. And once you submit that, then the I-20 is issued and then the visa process starts. Now, after the I-20 is issued, then of course, very important and very critical, I see this a lot of times, then when kids are going for an undergraduate degree, usually they're at the age of 17 plus 18 years of age. And at that point of time, their passport renewals are also due. So it's very, very important that you check at least 6 months by Jan itself. If May is the time when you're going to apply for your visas, by Jan, please make sure, the parents must make sure that the the passport renewals are happening. Because it's very important that you apply for the visa with the new passport, which has the validity for the entire duration of your study. Right, so it is very important. So of course, the passport, which is renewed, I-20 is the second document, and then DS-160 confirmation page, your service fee payment, which is $350, the receipt of that, visa appointment confirmation, visa fee receipt, which visa fee receipt will be of about 16,025 rupees. That's the visa fee today, and the offer letter, 16,000 something, yeah, 16,000 something. And your offer letter. All these documents are mandatory documents that you should have in your transparent folder when you're going for your OFC appointment as well as your consulate appointment. But besides that, other than these documents, I always recommend the students to carry these documents during their consulate visa appointment, which includes the academic transcripts. Very, very important. Their academic transcripts right from grade 9, 10, 11th and 12th board results, if the board results have come. Their financial documents. Now, financial documents would mean the parents' support documents, financial support documents, bank statements and ITRs and everything. Their IELTS and TOEFL scores, the offer letters from other universities that they have got. So all these documents should, and if they've already booked the accommodation, and if they've got the acceptance of housing from a university campus or whatever it is. So accommodation letter also should be carried. So the visa officer doesn't have to check, doesn't have the time to check all these documents. But in case if he asks, the student should have these documents. So it's very important for the students to carry these documents just in case.
Yeah, so it's better to be over prepared than
Yes,
under prepared. Absolutely.
yes,
Agree with you.
absolutely.
You were also talking a little bit about tier B and tier C universities, and uh, there is a fear actually that students going to lesser known colleges may get their visas rejected. But how frequently does that happen? How true is that?
See, lately it has been truer than maybe previous years, right? It's a genuine concern today. Given the stringent immigration checks, it is a genuine concern, no doubts about it. I am seeing, though Touchwood, I have not faced a visa rejection. My students have not faced the visa rejection yet, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this streak will continue. But yes, I know for sure that I've come across certain students where the visas were rejected because probably because they were going to a tier B or a tier C school. As I said, it's not they will, of course, you, unless and until you're able to justify your going there, which means there's a particular program which is so unique, though it's a tier B or a tier C school, but it's so unique and it fits your interest, your passion, your ability to justify that program choice, then fair enough, right? But it should be that unique program which is not available in India. Today, the visa officials who are sitting in India and interviewing thousands of students, they know how Indian education landscape is. So so the kids need to be prepared for such questions. That okay, you're going to say a tier B, tier C school, then why not study in India? What stops you from studying in India? So there has to be a valid, and this needs preparation. This needs digging deeper into that program and university that you have accepted the offer from. And then you need to really find reasons why. I think it is like going back to the dashboard and seeing what exactly appealed to you in that particular college or in that particular program. But yes, there is a fear, and it's a genuine fear. But there's nothing to worry about unless and until your other things are fine. You're able to take care of other aspects of visa interview, and you're able to justify this program choice or this
Yeah.
university. Yeah.
Oh, superb, superb. That's very helpful, Ritu.
Yeah. Thank you.
Coming to my final question here, we're almost coming towards the end of the session.
Sure.
And the question is, if a student's visa gets denied, what to do next? Is there still hope for the same intake?
Yes, there's still a hope. Unless so there's still hope. You can still reapply and reapply immediately. Most of the times, the most common reason when you are rejected on a student visa, uh, during the visa interview, at the end of the visa interview, either the officer will say, congratulations, your visa is approved, or else he will say that sorry, your visa is denied, and he will give you a slip, which is a section 214B slip. Now, under section 214B, most common reason that is listed is you fail to convince officer that you will return to your home country. Okay, based on whatever is written, if you have been able to uh, prove that if you are able to change something in your application, and you're able to prove that the reason of rejection is no longer valid, and you have improved upon that, you have added further information to it, then there is still hope. You can immediately reply, but you can immediately reapply, but reapply only and only if something has changed. Otherwise, there is no point. Otherwise, they will again reject. So you have to make sure that you are reapplying with a stronger reasons whatsoever, stronger academics, stronger financial documents, stronger reasons to 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 come back to your country, stronger demonstration of opportunities within India, which also might mean that You may want to change your university, or you may want to change your program, right? But that may not be always possible because you're going on, you want to kind of go in the same intake, right? So it is a very, you need to work with somebody to show you the right pathway to how to kind of maneuver this rejection. And if there are possibilities of improving your answers or preparing very well in a better manner, in a more effective manner for your visa interview, then that should be the thing. Reapplications are always possible, and I've seen acceptances after initial rejections. So I don't think that should be a problem. But yes, you have to have a very cautious approach towards it.
Superb, fantastic, Ritu. Any final words of advice to the students and parents who are applying for their US visas right now?
Two things. One is there is nothing to panic about. It's a process. Yes, visa rejections are a fact, and parents and kids should know about it. But that does not mean that they should fear it. Be well prepared. Work with somebody who can help you with the visa interview preparation. And then be confident and go for the interview, and it will be fine. But as I always say, keep a backup. It is very, very important. I have been telling this to in my entire cohort of students. Please keep backup. It is advisable. It is recommended to have a plan B in hand. We don't know how this is going to kind of roll out. There has been talks of further visa restrictions, so and rejections. So just have a plan B.
Superb, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ritu. It was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Devesh. Thank you for having me over, and thank you, parents. I hope this reaches to parents and they are able, and the students, and they're able to make some insights to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devesh. Thank you so much.